Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to those that were in the previous session. Um, my name is Jose Adorno, and we are on our second session in Digital Learning Day. So, as we mentioned in the previous session, we're not only talking about digital literacy, we're talking about applying digital literacy skills across different contexts. And in today's session, we have Oh, I have to pull it away. My bad. And in today's session, we have Dr. David Ferreira. He'll be presenting AI and career guidance, elevating your career using generative AI. Um, David Ferreira, oh, there you go. Okay. David Ferreira has been the provost at Charter Oaks State College since June 2021. In this capacity, he serves as the Chief Academic Officer and leads academic innovation and quality at the institution. He has successfully expanded workforce development initiatives and academic programs through strategic use of industry-driven curriculum and stackable credentials. Recently, he chaired the college's AI advisory group that monitored developments in artificial intelligence applications and made recommendations related to academic policy and practices. Dr. Ferreira's expertise in higher education leadership and his commitment to integrating cutting-edge technology into learning environments make him a thought leader in AI applications for business and higher education. We have we are recording the session. If you have any questions, you can post them in chat. We will be monitoring it throughout the session. And with that said, thank you so much, Dr. Ferreira, for presenting for us today.
Thank you. And good morning to everyone. If you would like to, feel free to go ahead and enter into the chat your name and organization. Just good to kind of get a sense of who's in the room. Therefore, also, I'm happy to kind of help, modify as we go through to hit on key points depending on the audience. As Jose said, I'm Dave Ferreira, and I'm the provost at Charter State College. We are Connecticut's public online state college. We are part of the Connecticut State College and University system. And really, in this session, we're going to focus on the role of AI in career guidance and development. We're going to just basically explore some practical tools and techniques that individuals can use to enhance their resumes, cover letters, interview preparation, using generative artificial intelligence. And the presentation, the handouts, all these things will be shared with the group. We are definitely an open book. It's for you to use, edit, modify as you see fit. And really, the goal of the presentation is to showcase how AI can be a powerful assistant in navigating career challenges. And remember, AI is a tool, and users really do need to make sure that they take ownership of their content. This will be a really interactive session. I'm going to be popping in and out of different things. I'll be showing some basic prompts. We'll actually be going through and putting some prompts into a generative AI tool. This one being for this purpose, Chat GPT. I know there's 8 million generative AI tools, and there's a lot of tools out there for career. So I wanted to do something that was fairly well-known, agnostic, but a lot of these techniques you can utilize in many AI career tools that you do see. But it's going to be very much interactive. We'd love to have your participation, so feel free at any period of time. If you're able to raise your hand and come off mute and ask the question or pop it into chat. I'm also going to leave some time at the end of the presentation, so we should be about 45 minutes, so about 11 o'clock. Hopefully, we'll also have plenty of time for overall kind of Q&A. But I really want to make sure that this does meet your needs. But that's basically how we're going to do it. And as I said, we really want to make sure that we do these things live and do them together as well. So I'll go ahead, and the first thing I want to do is also just get a temperature check from the audience about how do you feel about artificial intelligence in career services. So we're going to go ahead and put up a poll in a second. And really, we're going to ask you, how do you feel about this? And there are no wrong answers. You're all in. I'm excited. I'm a mix of nervous and excited. I'm not sure how to feel yet. And then I'm going to go ahead and date myself on my age and said, can I hop on a DeLorean and travel back to 1985? For those of you that are fans of, Back to the Future. And again, there's no wrong answers on this one. give it a couple more seconds for folks to come on in. So, all right, those about 100% answered. So it was great. So actually, a lot of folks are pretty excited. Again, there's no we can go ahead and share the results. A lot of folks are excited or a mix of nervous. Some don't know how to feel yet, but nobody wants to hop in a DeLorean. So that's it. As I do these presentations over time, and I kind of get a temperature check, I'm noticing some folks are starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, with it, because obviously it's here to stay. But the all in is good too. Where I personally stand is actually in that mix of nervous and excitement. That's just me. I do see that there's a lot of possibilities there, but also at the same time, I see some areas that we need to make sure we account for in regards to maybe some unethical practices and uses. So we'll go ahead and stop sharing the results of the poll. And next thing I want to kind of go into is we'll kind of just start. So really, what is this? So what is AI when it comes to career development? There's a lot of tools out there, being used to assist with development by really offering, it's about giving personalized guidance in areas such as resume building, job searches, interview preparation. And while it offers immense potential for efficiency and support, it's important for users to understand that this does not replace human judgment. That the human is still at the center of this. AI is a complement tool. It is not a replacement tool, especially when it comes to career guidance. And we'll actually go through and you'll see some of these examples as we do these interactions and how sometimes the AI is going to be doing some things where you definitely want to make sure you have the human judgment involved. All right. So really AI is a support system in career guidance, allowing individuals to streamline their tasks and always ensure that their personal experience decisions drive the final outcome. And so that's going to be a really crucial piece, because as a human, you only know so many things, right? You have limitations. You don't know every single thing about every single area of study. So if you're there with a person, people have various career goals, and you're there to give that overall guidance, keep the human in the loop. But there's also some things that we can give personalized assistance for, and for the group here, as we go into the chat, just want to see how people are. Feel free to chime on in if you would like to, saying, hey, for those of you that have actually maybe even used AI for your own career-related activities or so far early on in the process, are there any examples of how you may have actually interacted with an AI tool or a generative AI tool, whether it be some of the paid AI tools, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta. Yep, level down to reading an article. Yep. I love actually asking when I'm reading an article, especially if it's way over my head, is, can you explain it to me like I'm a third grader? It really helps when I'm unfamiliar with something that I'm trying to learn. And also I have one person, their coworker sends very much diatribe emails that are kind of like novels. And they say, can you summarize it for me? I did have to tell the person, make sure you at least strip any personally identifiable information. Generate questions about a topic that you found a video on. That's a good series. That's a good one. There's a lot of them that are actually out there. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to start to play around with this, and we're going to start to see different ways in which you can use generative artificial intelligence. And the first one I'll kind of just show you of something I did, and then the rest we're actually going to do together as an interactive group. Okay. So the first one I have here is AI for learning and skill development. And this kind of learning new topics using artificial intelligence. Okay. And so before we kind of get into what we're doing, I want to give an example of what we're going to be as we go through this process. And we're going to be a person who's looking for a job. And so I am a person who has a resume, and also I'm a person who has a job that I might be interested in applying for. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll show you an example of who we're going to be over this period of time. Okay, so I'm going to share the documents of who we're going to be. All right. So the first one is going to be on, so here's the job that we are going to be looking to apply for. It's a software engineering job, right? And so this is an actual sample job description. Again, I stripped anything from personally identifiable. And these were it was publicly available, so I'm not breaking any copyright infringement or anything like that. But this is a very common type of position for a software engineer. Again, you can use this for any other type, right? And this is who we're going to be. We're going to be Nutmeg Nancy, okay, through this process. And as you see here, and this is really important, again, if you're working with somebody and you're going to use artificial intelligence tools and you're going to be inputting things into a tool, my very much recommendation, unless you're working with your IT and you know the safety protocols that are involved with that product, is please strip the information of anything that's personally identifiable. So in this one, obviously, I am not named Nutmeg Nancy, okay? That is not my name. And also, as you see here, this is not my actual address or my actual phone number. You know, I was actually thinking about putting 867-5309 as the number, but we'll go through it. And as you see here, we stripped the email address as well. So my recommendation, if you are working with someone and you're looking to do this with a resume, strip that personally identifiable information. But a lot of the relevant experience is obviously going to be that person. So this is who we're going to be as we go through this process of I'm this person and I'm looking to apply for this job position. Okay. Now in this job position, and this is something that 80/20 really I think helps with, is ethically, I don't want a person going into the required qualifications and trying to 80/20 something because they're basically lying if they are selected for an interview. But in something where they are in a preferred, and they might be able to try to speak to this a little bit, but saying, I am not certified in this, but here's what I know of it overall, and here's how I might learn about it. That's a good way to possibly use this tool for learning and skill development. So in the scenario we're going to go into and play with is it's going to be for in the area here in the preferred, where it says knowledge and working experience in agile frameworks like Scrum, Kanban, etc. So what I'm going to do is show you kind of the input that I put in, and then we'll kind of go from there. Let me stop sharing here. I said we're going to be doing a little bit of bouncing, and we're going to now go into the tool. All right, so we are now in ChatGPT. All right, and you know, just to let you know, this is my ChatGPT tied to my work account. I use it for a number of different things, but and we'll kind of go into some of the other concepts here. But with this one, I use my general GPT account, which I do have a professional account, just to let you know. So some things are going to be a little bit interchangeable from the free account, but all the stuff I'm going to show you, you can do also with a free account. This one is just going to be, I'll show also differences with the paid. And again, this is the same if you're using a Gemini, a Meta AI, a Claude, whatever it might be. This is just one example. So in here, I put down that I am familiar with Scrum, but not as much about Kanban. I want to learn about Kanban, you know, identify and share the most important 20% of learnings of this topic. That'll help me understand 80% of it, all right? And, you know, this, again, this is something you can help and guide with for a person, all right? And then, so as I just read through this, I kind of learned a little bit more about what is this particular skill set, all right? And where enough to where a person could go into a job interview, because again, this is a preferred qualification, and they can say, I'm actually certified in Scrum if they are, but I'm a little bit familiar with Kanban. I'm not certified in it, but I am a little bit familiar with it and about the differences between that and Scrum, because as you go through, you can see it highlights in here what are some of the differences between Kanban versus Scrum. And then and this one took it quite literally. When I said 80/20, it gave me 20 things. So again, you can see some of the downfalls of it, right? And so identifying these concepts, you can learn a little bit more about it, and it gives a good stand-in point for a person to kind of go to and learn more. And then what I did do as an iteration, as I said, but are there ways to earn an industry recognized credential in it? All right. And so it did give me a list of all these ways in which I can earn the industry recognized credentials. So again, you can give this guidance. And then a lot of it is great because it says, there are things here where, let's say the company wanted PMI, Agile certified, and that, like, hey, that might be a good one to kind of speak about in the interview, of a way in which you could learn more. And then likewise, it gives you, what are the levels of certification for beginners versus more intermediate and advanced and things of that nature. So this is a great way in which you can work with somebody to say, this is one way you can learn a little bit more, where you can speak to it in the interview, but in an ethical manner, of that you can learn a little bit about it, but then also how can you, if you do get the position, how you may actually be able to go towards that preferred qualification. Because obviously a person who applies for a job, they don't meet all the preferred qualifications, but if they have a plan of how they can meet those preferreds in the future, that's a really good skill set that is out there for the folks. Okay. So that's one way in which you can just do a quick 80-20 in an ethical way for folks using this system. Okay. And let me just stop to see if there's any pieces over into the chat. Okay, but if there are any pieces in the chat or questions, Jose, if you wanted to maybe monitor and let me know. All right, next one we want to get into for this component is about maybe building an effective resume. All right, and so this is how you might be able to create, edit, or resumes using AI. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into some of these GPTs. So I took, so the difference between what I did here, which is I didn't use any specifically trained GPT. This is just the basic chat GPT for Omni knowledge base, okay? But there are maybe sometimes more specific tasks where you might want to utilize a GPT in this scenario. And a GPT, in essence, is just something where it's something that somebody or some company created. And the difference between a GPT and the general ChatGPT overall is this is trained on the basic universe, whereas in something like a career coach, a cover letter, or a master interviewer, this is something that someone or some organization trained on a little bit smaller language model. So things to try to get to a little bit more precise answers, because it's not pulling from the entire universe. It's training it on ways in which it would like for it to answer. Okay. And so for this scenario, I can go into, and I'll go into career coach, which again, you can always research on here about what are good GPTs versus not. The ones I try to go to is kind of like how I took the same way as which when I'm buying a product. I looked at the reviews, right? And see who had a good number of reviews, how are the ratings and things of that nature. But you can then test it on out and see how it performs. And then from there, you do this. And the difference between a trained GPT is it has sometimes a little bit of prompted questions for you. Okay. But with this one, we want to do a resume, right? So I have in this scenario, I'm going to change it up a little bit because this is for if you didn't have things to upload. This one is you can write a draft of the resume for this, or in this scenario, you can even edit if the person already has a resume, right? Edit a draft of a resume for my software engineering position. Including the relevant information, in the attached job description where my resume, and job description, just because again, I don't want it to make up, things, because if you don't give it those guardrails, it may create a resume with experiences the person may have never done because they tried it over the job description. Because a lot of times people are saying, well, people are creating resumes and they're inserting experiences that never happened. And let me tell you this, before AI came out, people did fudge their resumes. All right. All that AI is doing now is making it easier to do that. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and upload my little files on here. So this is my sample resume. And then I'm going to go ahead and here's the job description. So again, I want to make sure that it highlights and brings forward in my resume things that are more catered towards that job description. And also edit for grammar and clarity. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and let's just see how this performs. Okay. That's going to go ahead. It's going to read all these things. It's going to search the knowledge base, and now it's going to refine it based upon the job description. Okay. So a person who has a generic job description is now going to make it catered towards this position because it will highlight things a little bit more than other areas. Okay. And so it's going to go through and do its thing. And let me actually look at what I have in my original resume and actually see where it actually changes some things. And let me see if it makes up anything as well. So with this one, actually just letting you know some of the things it's doing, it's highlighting this technical skills area. All right, it's highlighting things up higher up in the resume than in my generic resume, which moved them down a little bit further. Okay. It's also, let's see here, if it actually did not lie about those technical skills so far. So it hasn't made stuff up. Okay. And let's see, web development critiques, HTML, PHP, Flash and query. Yep. Cloud computing. All right. And what it did here is there's an updated course website for improved usability and accessibility. So in this one is actually something that is, in a way, possibly related to what they may have done as a teaching assistant over at Penn, right? So this one again is where you would actually say, here's something to think about. Did you actually do this? It sounds like you probably did based upon the job description and some of the other things you put into the bullet points. But this is something again where the person needs to oversee, edit, and ensure for accuracy. Okay, but in this one, it actually did contribute more towards that specific job description here. Okay, so this is one way you can get a person to cater and edit their resume over into that particular job. Any questions that you may have? Let's see if there's anything in the chat. I'll go to something that will be kind of fun, which is about creating cover letters next. So that's in Career Coach. All right. So this gives an example of what it did, and it performed overall pretty good because, and it really didn't seem to make up too much, but a couple areas you do want to get clarification from the person. Okay. So I'll X out of this one. All right. And now I'm going to go into my cover letter GPT. All right. So now I have a resume, I have a job description, but now I want to tailor that resume, to the job description. Okay. And again, these prompts that I'm putting into, you'll actually have access to these prompts. And you can obviously, as you see here, I'm modifying some of these based upon having an upload versus I can copy and paste the text if I didn't have the ability to upload. But now we're going to go into a cover letter. Okay. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a compelling cover letter for a software engineering job, and it's going to be and I'm going to make up the name, Sample Corporation, in a conversational but also professional tone, using job responsibilities, attached, or attached as a reference, because I'm not going to put them down below. Keep the cover letter to 500 words or less. Again, sometimes if they specify in the job, they may say keep it to 2 pages, 1 page, 500 words. If it's a higher level job, sometimes it's less than 5 pages. All right, but whatever those parameters are, I use typically about 500 words or less for cover letter. All right, and I'll put down attached is my resume and job description. what I'm going to go ahead and do here. I'm going to upload again my sample resume and my job description here. All right, and again, so it's going to give it'll give a rough first draft. But obviously, it's going to be on the human to go ahead and go through, making sure it doesn't make up anything, making sure that it doesn't. What I always say is that if a GPT or anything does make up something, it gives don't look at it as an hallucination, because it is hallucination and they shouldn't submit it, but also think about it as a way of maybe as a prompt to the human on what are ways that they can highlight, or if that's not true, what are some similar experiences they can put into that role or that position. Okay. And so I actually created here the components, and I'm excited to apply, in my time as a teaching, and it goes into different areas of what this person did. In my time as a teacher assistant, my ability to break down complex problems and design solutions. That was something that was asked for over in the job description. And things that I also wanted to make sure that I highlighted in accordance with it. And, the one area is that so here's an area where, again, it hallucinated, and you want to make sure it's a nice little maybe tip to the person who's writing that cover letter. I'm particularly excited about Sample Corporation's mission to build high quality software that enhances customer and associate experiences. Nowhere in the job description did it mention the company's mission statement. So in this scenario, it made it up, right? But what I would be doing in this scenario and working with that person is to say, hey, by the way, go to blank corporation's mission statement, take a look at it, and see if you can tie or note to that mission statement. That is a good best practice to use when writing cover letters. So again, it's making sure that it gives a nice little draft or things to look at, but it also maybe gives some prompts to the human on ways in which they can insert certain things that are authentic to say, go to the mission statement, see if they mention something about what ties to that might tie to this particular position, and connect that mission over to the position in your experiences. All right. So again, I use this sometimes as a way to also remind folks on how they can enhance their cover letter to follow those best practices over in cover letter writing. So that's another way in which you can use this tool, again, to kind of, I always say when we 80-20 the learning experience, it can kind of 80-20 the cover letter. But again, the human is ultimately responsible for making sure, because if a person did submit the cover letter and to this company that alluded to their mission statement, and that mission statement was not in fact their mission statement, you can tell the person your resume is going to get thrown out, because it can tell obviously that you do not actually do your homework, or that you just copy and pasted from another job that you may have applied to and just didn't change the mission statement of that company. So again, that's a really good reason why they want to go through and make sure they contextualize their cover letter to the company. And this gives a good guidance on how to do that, or suggestions of to do that. Okay. The other area that I think is going to be pretty helpful when it comes to career coaching is, let me first go to
There's a couple questions. Yeah. Do you want me to read them out for you, or?
Yep, I just opened them up over here. So this is a good one. Please define hallucination in AI. That's a really great question. So yeah, because it's a tool that sometimes we use. It's the definition we use a lot, but in essence, hallucination is short for it just literally makes stuff up. It does have an ability where a lot, especially we're in the early stages of artificial intelligence, but hallucination means that it just literally makes stuff up. And the fun piece about it, or not so fun piece about it, is that if you when an artificial intelligence hallucinates, and you ask for, are you sure about that? It will double down on the lie and say, yes, I am sure. All right. I gave an example. I did a previous presentation on something, different than career services, but on artificial intelligence. And at the end, I tried to end with an inspiring quote from a famous person, right? Like a Bill Gates or something like that. And it literally made up a quote of Bill Gates that when I did the research, Bill Gates never said that. right? It literally says, sounds like something Bill Gates would say, right? Or it pulled from the knowledge base of something that sounds like Bill Gates. So again, that's what it means by hallucination. And so the next question, a really good question too, is this the free version of ChatGPT? So for this scenario, I'm using my paid version of it. The difference you may find sometimes between free or paid, in this scenario, you would probably still be able to use um, this version because I'm using what's called the 4 Omni, which is the most recent version of ChatGPT. The free version allows you to use it for a little bit, upwards of like a couple of different iterations, about I think 10 iterations. So you might be able to use it for a little bit of period of time, but then it then shuts off and it goes back to the older version of ChatGPT. Again, the prompts that I'm giving you that you'll have after this presentation, it's instead of uploading the document, you can insert the job title. So that's a one way you can work around it if you can't upload documents. All right. So all the things here you will be able to do in some form or fashion. And again, and this is for ChatGPT. You may want to, again, what I encourage you to do as you go through this is you could play around with a Claude, Gemini. If you have Copilot over in your office and you wanted it to be, maybe you want to use Copilot. There's a lot of different tools, but just in this scenario, and also who you work for may also maybe purchase down the line a actual paid subscription to something that's very much career focused. I just wanted to use something that is kind of tool agnostic and strategies that you can utilize probably with any tool. But ChatGPT is just the most well known, so I just use it for this one. But you bring up a good point. Make sure you recognize what are the limitations of whatever tool you're using and adapt as you do to that one. Great questions here.
There's one more. It the question goes back to could this also format a design for the resume with graphics?
Yes. So you can actually go. It depends on the tool. What you could do is if I iterated with it, or if for even not just on the resume, but also on the cover letter. Let's say I didn't like that it formatted it in bullet points. You can actually just say here, I really don't, like the bullet points in this version. I want it to be just in narrative format, bullet points. That's where you can iterate with it and go here. For graphics, if you have a professional version of ChatGPT, it does create some images, but there are also some free tools that create some images. I personally, as you look at it, if you're looking at certain graphics or things that could be kind of cool, Canva AI, that one is the first one to have a kind of build your own logo. There are some abilities with that. But if what you could do also, we could do in ChatGPT, although I wouldn't put it in a resume or cover letter, you can have emojis that go down into it. That would be kind of more cool for emails. But you could ask it to format it a little bit differently. As you see here, when I asked it to not bullet point and go into more narrative format, it changed it over there for me. All right. We're getting closer to here. I'll go on to the next one. These are great questions. Again, we're going to go right up until that 11:15. So if we don't have as much time for generic Q&A at the end, that's okay because we're stopping along the way. So the next thing I want to do here is I want to go ahead and I have a person and I want to help with interviewing skills, right? And I'm not so just full disclosure, I'm not a software developer, right? I'm a provost at a college and I'm a political scientist by background. I'm a liberal arts person. So I'm actually here and I really wanted to help this person prepare for a job. Okay. And so what I want to do is maybe do a couple of things first. All right. And first, what I'm going to do is with this master interviewer is using this job description, create a list of 8 possible interview questions. And this one you can do as you go into it and maybe ask the person to be prepared for. Instead of inserting the job description, I'm just gonna upload the job description here. It's a little bit easier. And so these just brainstorming questions. Okay. And so this will give me a nice list of it here. All right. And so it's going to give me, as I look at this, some pretty decent questions about it overall. It performed okay. So brainstorming the questions is nice. That's a good way to start. What I really want to do though is I want to also give it answers. Um, you know, you know, and what I wanted to do though is in the interview, I'm going to question one is, and then they can insert the answer, and then I want them to critique my answer and provide constructive feedback. All right. And so for this one, I'm going to put in a bad answer because I'm not a software engineer. And so I could put down the question one is, I had a bad coworker and he really didn't solve the problem. Critique my answer and provide constructive feedback for improvement and other considerations. All right. So this one you can actually also have the GPT, be an interviewer. Obviously, you can do a much better answer than the one I gave on this, or you really would ask the person to insert an answer that would be much better than this, and have a critique, and it gives a decent critique. You know, in this one I didn't answer pretty well. It lacks the elements to the interview for. It lacked problem solving and things of that nature. So again, like explain what is the problem, things like that. So it gives overall ways that you can answer it better. So again, with the time limitation, I'm not going to go into deep answers. But it does give actually recommendations on using a certain methodology to actually help answer questions. Which is about using the STAR method. Briefly describe the problem. What was your responsibility? What steps did you take? And what did you learn? So that's and it gives an example of how an answer could be. So again, this is a nice way in which you can help with preparing a person for a job interview. Well, these all stuff. I think there may have been. Is there a question over in the chat? So let me show you.
Yes, there is one question. It says, do employers have AI filters that will reject a resume if they know that it is AI generated? If so, is there a certain percent of AI generated that would not be flagged? There's another question
Okay.
after that.
So this is a good one. Typically, people are using AI to identify, usually for the ones that are the most part on human resources, they're using artificial intelligence for searching of keywords for resumes to which ones they might recommend to help move forward into the process. There are some AI detection tools out there. Now, a lot of companies and things like that, and I'll give an example over here at the college, we shy away from AI detection tools for a couple of reasons. One, if a person is using a more advanced AI system, like a modern version of ChatGPT, right? Or a modern version of Claude, like Claude 3.7 just came out and it's highly sophisticated, those tend not to get picked up by AI detectors. Because they speak in a more conversational, humanistic tone, okay, compared to AIs of even 6 months ago or 7 months ago. So it's a losing battle for AI detection tools. Two, AI detection tools from an equity standpoint have been found to disproportionately negatively impact English language learners. Okay, because the ways that folks, yeah, that's correct. There are no reliable or proven AI detection tools, and um, and so really, it's they tend to shy away because also for those that are English language learners, they get flagged more often, even if they haven't used the detection tool. My most fun example is that if you actually put in the Declaration of Independence, it thought that Thomas Jefferson was a bot. Clearly, TJ was not a bot, but the way that Thomas Jefferson wrote, there was actually ways in which it would be picked up as an AI detection. So it's just very unreliable. I was actually with about 30 high schoolers about a month ago, and I was asking them, what's your high school's policy on artificial intelligence? All 30 said it's banned. I said, well, how many of you use it? All 30 raised their hands. And what they actually said is they go into the AI detection tools and they use it themselves, and they just finagle the words to bring down the score and then submit the assignment. So again, that's a losing argument. But yep. And is there a way to generate a full list of 50 or 100 questions once GPT rather than having it generate partial lists? You can ask it for others. I just put in 8 here. You can put in different numbers, right? If you ask it for 100 questions, that might be a lot, because then you have to go ahead and sift through. What I typically start with is maybe I start with 10 or 20, because in a typical job, a job interview, they may not get more than probably 10 to 15 questions. So I personally would maybe start between 10 and 20, or 25. You'll get that list over there for me. But yeah, you can ask it for a different amount as it goes in. But as you can see here, there are ways to which you can not just have it list questions, but then start to get deeper, where you can ask the person who maybe you're working with to go ahead and provide maybe sample answers, and it'll critique these answers, and then maybe give some overall ways and methods to help make improvements that you do have. And then one of my favorite ways, favorite things, I recently I came up with this prompt. Is I really want to I have a person, and let's say they are a person who's currently going through a college experience, right? Or a learning experience, a short-term job training program, and they want to, or they haven't started yet with a training program, and they have an idea for a career or a job that they would like to obtain down the road. But here's where they are currently with their resume. And so how can I maybe guide them of what are ways in which they can pursue certain trainings or skills that they should develop in order to get to that eventual job that they would like down the road. So over here is I have this prompt, and again, you'll have this over after the presentation. Is I'm thinking about applying for this job, so we're going to use that job description that I put down, and you are my career coach. Attached is the job description and my resume. Identify where I may have some skills gaps between the job description and my resume, and recommend ways of how I can develop them. Okay. So again, because you may not be a software engineer, this is a good way to maybe get started with maybe providing some guidance on ways in which a person can obtain some training, or identify what skills gaps they may have between their current resume and a career goal that they would like to get into. So I'm going to put this in here, and then we're going to go see how this performs. All right, and so we'll say here, based upon your resume and the job description, here are key skills gaps that are recommended. And it'll actually say this job requires experience in deploying product-ready solutions such as AWS, Azure. Your resume mentions AWS and OpenStack, but does not specify hands-on production experience. So in this area, there's 2 things that can happen. The person may have production experience, so you can tell the person, if that's the case, make sure you highlight production experience in your cover letter, or tweak your resume to mention that in your resume. Or if the person doesn't, you could say, consider getting some hands-on experience with this. It prefers experience in these things. You have experience in these, but not modern UI frameworks. Okay. And so it's given me some areas here about where are there some some guidelines. And then here are some recommended ways in which you can bridge the gap, right? And oh, there are some online certifications, AWS Certified Developer, Cloud Associate, right? It's starting to give me some training courses or experiences that I might look into to help reach my eventual career goal of being a software developer, depending on where I am currently in this process. Because I'm keeping in mind, as a currently my resume is I'm a teaching assistant, so I'm still going through college in this example, all right, that I do have. Okay. Um, and so it says, oh, would you like recommended courses for or project? Yes, yes. Can you please recommend courses for Agile? And um, I would like to have those courses that I can do, and let's say in an online and self-paced environment. Right? Let's say in this example, I want it to be online and self-paced because I may not be able to go to college, or I can put down, or I would like to do it over in an on-ground college setting. You can specify. Um, in this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and ask it for Agile, all right, because that's one of the areas that was identified. Um, and then great. And so on here, it's going to say, well, there's actually Agile Project Management by Google on Coursera, right? Um, there's another one here that's Six Sigma Global Institute. Uh, Udemy is another one, and then there's also the University of Delaware offers something, right? And it gives the sources on where I can click to and learn a little bit more information. Okay, but how about if I want to learn about it on ground and at my local, uh, let's just say, community college? I live in Connecticut. Is there a place? I'm going to test it out now. I'm not sure how well it's going to respond. I'm just thinking about this at the top of my head. So it's going to search the web. Um, Central Connecticut State University. It actually did pull it from the Central Connecticut's website, right? There's an Agile Scholarship Program over at Central Connecticut State, right? And Middlesex Community College does actually have through their training of Ed2Go, which is an online provider, so it wouldn't be really offered on ground. Again, you have to look into it more. And did you know there's an Agile and Scrum one-day training in Groton over at Eventbrite? So again, you can use it to, again, get some ideas of how we can help you out, help the person out of achieving obtaining some of those skills gaps. So again, these are prompts that just get you thinking about how you're not the conveyor of everything, our knowledge of everything, but ways in which you can work with ChatGPT or other generative AI tools to help personalize the experience uh, for for them overall, because you don't know everything. But the good news is there are tools that can help you narrow it down, but you still want to double check for accuracy. So, and again, and we just did this in 45 minutes. We were able to help this person out with a draft of a resume, a draft of a cover letter, looked at some potential interview questions, and maybe even did a little bit of a gap analysis. There are things that you can do. Again, there's more out there. And also in the handout I'm going to give to you, you're going to be like, hey, Dave, I'm not really good at prompt engineering. Don't worry, I actually have a prompt that you can put into an AI tool if you're not good at prompt, and it'll actually guide you to a good prompt of what you're trying to solve as well. So, all right. So with that, I want to open it up overall for questions, things that may have missed, things that you're just curious about, or hey, you hit upon that a little bit. Can you expand upon that? And again, as you can see here, it's not a replacement of people for giving career guidance. It's how you can be a better facilitator to give that personalized experience to them. Or if you're in your own career journey, how you can utilize it yourself. Because again, these can be used internally as well. Could you use it to analyze open-ended responses from your students? Ah, so I would say it all depends on the situation which you're trying to do it with. There's a couple things I would kind of caution it with. If you are using it to grade somebody, um, I would check with your IT department about, are there tools that maybe the institution has partnered with that help with that one. The one area I would say is, if you did use it just to critique and give some constructive feedback, I think it's okay to use, but I would be very cautious about how and when, because if, let's say, you are going to be using it to maybe give critiques on a reflection journal, I would not use it for a reflection journal, because when a person uses a reflection journal, they're probably using some things or sharing things that are personally identifiable. If it's an open AI tool, this is something I give to my college students here at Charter Oak. We always say this: if you don't want this to be shared with the general public, don't put it in an open AI tool. So I would utilize that as a barometer, which is, would this person want me to share this in public? If it's going to be an open tool, if it's a closed tool that has security features, that's and it's not being trained and things of that nature, that's a little bit different. You can probably have a little bit more expansion on how you can use it. Great question. And yeah, and those are overall guidelines. Again, as we get better at this with AI, obviously companies are going to be using more AI tools within your IT departments for very specialized purposes. I set my settings over here. So that's another thing too. If you're using an AI tool, there are ways in which you can set the settings in your own AI tool to where you make sure that anything that you input into it does not train the database. That's another way that you can protect a lot of the things that you input into the tool. All right. So you can always look at that through your settings to make sure and check off the box. Because like, for example, OpenAI through ChatGPT defaults that they'll train based upon what you input. Because it does. That's how it uses it to make it better itself. But I check the box to say, hey, look, don't train for certain things. I'll turn off that feature. So don't train on this, because I am having, even with the paid tool, I'm using it because I want to make sure I protect some information. Even though I still strip it of PII, I don't want to, if it's something that even potentially or remotely could be intellectual property of Charter Oak State College, I don't want to share that with a tool. So there's a lot of ways, but what I would encourage you, if depending on where you are in your journey, is continue to play around with it, explore with it, and you're just going to get better as you do it, but you'll have some of those prompt engineering skills that kind of go along with it. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to our second part of our poll, and I want to do like a little bit of a before and after. And so that's going to go ahead and share this. And yeah, so it's over here, which is, now that we've kind of gone through this past 55 minutes, or 50 minutes, how does it describe here? I'm ready to go. I've already researched these tools. I may pilot the best practice or two and then see how it goes. Let's have some more sessions, then we'll talk. And then, since nobody had a DeLorean in the first, I don't think anybody wants to hop on a DeLorean now. Again, these are no wrong answers here. Okay. Some want to learn a little bit more, some are ready to go, but then others, hey, and this is good. This is where I definitely encourage it for folks, which is, go ahead, either if you are ready to go, or you pilot, or you want to continue to learn more on your own. There is no wrong answer, but yeah, I would say when you are ready, or when you can, definitely play around with this. These are things here, again, strip personally identifiable information. Start with things that are very, more generic before you start to get into more robust type of things here, or things that might be a little bit more difficult. As I said, it's always better to learn how to tackle and block before you start throwing flea flickers. So, okay, we'll go here, and then we'll go inward into the chat. Yeah, good that you definitely see it in action. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that when we did this, that it's something that you can see live, because as you see here, when it makes a mistake, I want you to see it make a mistake, because these are things right off the cuff. Because again, I want to make sure it was live and something that you all can can see what are the pros and cons. This is, I don't want to make it a stage type of performance because I don't want to sell it to you that this is the panacea. It's not. Again, you are the facilitator. You are the most important entity in this as far as that hub of information. So hopefully you got some good takeaways. And I said, if there are any other questions, happy to stick around. But if not, Jose, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much for this interactive showing it on the spot. You cover pretty much a unit with next steps and everything, like span of 45 minutes. So it's a lot of content that you covered there. Like
Yeah, I believe we could
on the
do
spot,
a
yeah.
cafe thing and things like that. Also, we can do a little bit deeper dive. I just want to give you a little bit of the takes of where to go. Yeah.
Yeah, this was excellent. Thank you so much. I included two links here. One is that we do have an artificial intelligence page at Digital ATN with some resources of what we've done previously with knowledge bites and some of the tools. We also have text implementation and support sessions. So let's say you wanted to follow up and apply some of these and you need some practice or just need additional guidance, we are available to support with that as well. So please just feel free. That's all. Feel free to use, and it's free to use. So just wanted to point it out that we have that there. Our next session is blended learning strategies and models to meet learner needs. This is with Jen Vanek, and that's going to start actually 11:50. No, not 11:15. Is it? 11:30. My bad. I have this backwards. Let me double check. I want to say it's 11:30.
It says
Oh.
11:30 on my invite.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Okay, my bad. It was my mistake. I'm like, wait, this is wrong. Thank you so much. So at 11:30, we have blended learning strategies and models. Sorry about that. To meet learner needs. That will be with Dr. Jen Vanek. Thank you very much. If you have an extra question you want to ask before we close, you're more than welcome. If not, I will see you in the next session.
And Jose, what I'll just mention too for folks, just as a follow-up too, is that Charter Oak does actually have a free experience called the Connecticut Online AI Academy. So if you have folks that are looking to learn just basic AI literacy skills, I'll put it into the chat, workforce.charteroak.edu. It's a free course. Actually, we're already got over 1,700 enrollments. We're kind of booked over into July, but that is available for any of your folks that may be looking to learn a little bit more about some AI literacy skills. And then as a college, we do have a credit bearing program. We're going to be launching it in the fall as well for those that wish to be an AI practitioner. So that's going to be a highly desired skill in the future. So I'll put that over into the chat so people have it. But glad to also, just for the general public, glad to try to provide that service for them.
Definitely, and if that's a link I could also include when we send out the slides too.
Thank you. I think so. It's been fun. Let me know if there's anything else, and I'll also have my contact information as well. Any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much.